Good morning, everyone, and of course, good afternoon where appropriate. Welcome to the April webinar, and good to be with you. I just spent 2 days with Greg Sternedka and his team out here. We'd had a retreat at our beach house, and it was a wonderful, wonderful retreat, and the weather in our sky looks like the sky in this picture right now. And I was we were counting our blessings as we looked out over the beautiful blue Pacific and the sparkling water, and they had just come from multiple feet of snow. And and we laughed that where you lived was a choice, and the choices we make are a big deal, as you all know, and from childhood and now, in our business, the choices we make about how we build and what we do, what we choose not to do, have a huge impact on where we end up. I'm not trying to be so simplistic as to be profound, but the reality is that when it comes to business building challenges or problems, there's only kind of so much we can do every day if we haven't put certain things in place to allow ourselves the chance to win. And when I talk about things in place, I'm talking about a culture, a building culture, where you've implemented as a leader, whatever level. Because I remember starting to work on this my first month with the first batch of recruits. We had 17 recruits, and I remember my first meeting, I invited all 17. 9 of them showed up. That was my first introduction to people telling me they were going to be there and not come on the team. And I think I spent the first 15 minutes talking about how I wish the other people were there. And then I kind of figured out that wasn't going to do them or me any good, and they still weren't going to be there. So I better give my best to the people who were. I remember we started talking about some things that had been already emphasized to me. I was so fortunate to have such excellent mentorship from the beginning of my career, and I didn't realize, or I wouldn't have known to articulate it as a culture that I was starting to build, or even that I was part of a building culture, which I most definitely was. But over the weeks and months ahead, that my perception increased, my understanding increased, and I realized, and of course now today, 32.9 years into the business, how much the culture impacts the overall performance. Just as you think about an athletic program and a winning culture, you take Rick Pitino and the Louisville Cardinals, who won the NCAA men's basketball championship, or you take the Connecticut, whatever they are, who won the women's NCAA basketball championship. It was the 8th time they had done that, which is a record. They have cultures. They're winning cultures, and it's a culture of victory. And I could have substituted some of those words. I talk about a building culture. I really am talking about a culture that lends itself to development of people in some very positive and dramatic ways, in a way that there's no way you can, as an individual, bring your game in such a way every day so as to carry it by personality. So you need a culture, just like you need a system to have this happen. So let's talk about letting your system and the culture build your business. First thing to note is it's not personality driven. Certainly I don't mean to underplay that you need to be positive, that you need to be encouraging of people, that you need to be an enjoyable person. In other words, if you're prideful and arrogant, all those things, in one sense, you'll be personality driven, and the fact that you'll drive your business right into the ground. What I'm saying is that you just can't hope that your energy will be so great that it will drive the business. And let me give you a quick illustration. back early in the business, as I was coming up through the initial promotions, before I got what we would now call our SMD promotion, we were struggling like all teams have struggled to get recruiting and production going at the same time and establishing a rhythm, because we didn't really have a culture established yet, or a system. And anyway, I went to this special event in Atlanta for the company, and it was a training school for people who were all near-term SMD promotions, and you had to do quite a bit more to get to SMD by guidelines than today. I mean, the average person had recruited actually 200 people in their organization before they got to SMD by the criteria of the company I was in then, which is considerably more than the requirement of today. But everybody in that room had pretty much done that or very close to it. And something that took me by surprise, I got promoted there at that event. The event was dedicated to Cindy and I, to how, a lot of really kind things were said about us. I was stunned, thrilled, totally energized, came back along with the coaching I had gotten at that event. I came back just like a fireball and absolutely energized the team, jumping up and down excited. And we exploded about over those next 40 days, where we did almost, it was like 92 recruits. And maybe it was 95. And we had been doing 15. We had done 15 in April. In May, we came back with 8 days left, moved from about a 15 recruit pace to 27, and then did 80. And it was unbelievable. And yet 3-4 months later, we were back. Actually, then we went to 50, then we went to 30, then it was going to be in the 20s. And I had to figure out how to establish a system and a culture, that wasn't going to be built around my personality. And even though it's not, it is driven by your enthusiasm, by your conviction and your passion. But you can't hope to be at such a level emotionally that just is realistic that you sustain. In fact, if you did sustain it, people would start taking it for granted and thinking you were nuts. And so, but while I was very jump up and down excited for a little while, and it caused good things to happen in the business, not being sustainable was a killer, right? And so in talking with my mentors about this, it began to become clear that I needed to develop what I came to understand is the key elements of a building culture. One of those key elements is something we will call a hot environment, right? And it has nothing to do with a nightclub and things of that nature. But it's not like a sauna. It has nothing to do with setting your thermostat at a certain level and people sweating in your meetings. So that may be part of it. Obviously, I mean a hot environment emotionally. We're going to talk about that. It's also got to be a price-paying environment. If your people are complaining that they have to show up on a Saturday, or how tough it is, am I supposed to try and work every night? Well, you're serious, yeah. I don't mean Sundays, but you're out in the field, you're doing your meetings and you're driving it forward. As an entrepreneur, you got to understand, if you aren't in a price-paying mindset, if you aren't creating a price-paying environment for your people so you can train them from 9 to 5 employee mentalities Monday through Friday, to maniac all the timers, because your key people have to be all the timers of mentality that are very willing to work the nights and work the Saturdays and do that kind of stuff. Then obviously they're not going to get very far. Also, you've got to have what I'm going to call a focus for environment. That doesn't mean much to you right now, but it will by the time we're done in a few minutes. So let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about creating a hot environment. Look at that guy. See, not only is he hot, he's excited. but he's not over the top. Anyway, I love our little icons. Let's talk about something that's obvious, but we don't usually think of it all that much. And that's that our business is a business of words. It's all built around what is the nature of our communication with our people. Our words will either build and lift our teammates and those around us, or our families, or our friends, or they'll tear down and depress. Right? And it's really not much in between. I guess there are neutral words like hi, but even saying hi with enthusiasm and looking someone to the eye builds them. Or if it's neutral or seemingly uncaring, it takes away a little bit. I once heard a minister talk about it, the terms, he called it bucket filling or bucket dipping, in that if you pictured everybody having a bucket, full of, let's just say water, right? And you were either going to add to that bucket or then try and fill it overflowing, or you were going to take away from it. And I always remembered that thought and what it meant. And because I wanted to be a bucket filler, certainly. I think everybody within the sound of his voice was thinking the same thing. But man, in a tough world, in a tough business where we get frustrated and all of that stuff, or people disappoint us as we suppose, it's easy to use words that break people down. And so think about it. The tool of your trade is your ability to shape words. A carpenter has hammers and saws and other things, right, with which to construct things. Your tools are words. And I think many of you that are listening right now ought to consider getting a little better with your words. A little more focused on building and lifting, a little more focused on them being words of conviction, like from the previous slide, words that express your passion, your love for the business, your love for what we do for people, your love of the fact that we can have a better life. And so we're going to talk about the languages you use. So here's the headline. I believe there are 3 higher law languages. Now, before we go on to the first one, let me emphasize what I mean by higher law. Our business is a combination of higher law inspiration and lower law instruction. And lower law instruction is critical. It's how do you do a presentation, a first presentation in the field, a product presentation. What are product features? What are the features you emphasize? How do you close a sale? How do you get referrals? How do you do a BPM, corporate overview, open house, whatever you call it? How do you do a follow-up interview? How do you do a one-on-one recruiting presentation? How do you do a prospect list? But I've talked about some of these things before, but I really want to emphasize how you need to create a hot environment in your business. How that's a big daggone deal. Lots of times you work so hard on the lower law, almost exclusively on the lower law. How do you invite somebody to a meeting? How do you set an appointment? You've got to give that instruction. But if you'll notice, you'll get to a point where instructing the same person, like let's say somebody's struggling with an invitation, but you've drilled them 1,000 times. Then telling them how to do it one more time will not move them an inch forward, right? It doesn't improve their performance at all. And this is what you'd be missing, is the higher law languages, the hot environment. And so let's talk about the first one. I'll call it the language of helping people. We're in the business of helping people in every way you want to look at it. First and foremost, we're in the business of helping families in our countries, right, change the direction of their lives financially, redirect them, give them on a plan, help them develop goals, define the goals, define what it's going to take every week, every month to get to that goal. And we're in the business of putting hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in their future. And so one of the things that I gave at back to this retreat, before they came in, I gave them homework that they all had to put down in print the 5 things that turned them on the most about what we do for people, with our products and services. What fires them up? And I just shared some of mine with you about a plan, about a goal. Most people are like, if you could see me, I'm holding my left fist up to my left side and said, most people are right here financially. Now I'm holding my right fist up to my right side, but they have this vague idea they need to be over here, right? They think, I want to end up here, and I kind of picture over here having more money and more money saved, more secure, all of that stuff, but they have no idea what that is. Rich Cunningham loves to emphasize, from Utah, great guy. I mean, we don't have someone better with the consumer, right? What's your number? In other words, what is their retirement number? What's the number they're going to have, adjusted for inflation, adjusted for the rate of return project they're going to earn, and the time that they need it? And what's your number? I was talking to somebody a couple days ago, who's actually doing some landscaping, pretty successful guy, and some landscaping in my house. And I was talking to him about where does he save money? He said, well, I'm with this certain company, a company you'd recognize. I won't tell you which one it was, Morgan Stanley. And he was going through, but I said, well, that guy's a professional, and you have, a sizable amount of money. What has he told me your number is? He goes, what? I said, what has he told you your number is? And he goes, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I said, well, there's a number up there, and I did my fist thing. You're here, but you have this vague idea you want to end up, be over here financially someday. Do you know what that is? It can't be vague. It's got to be clear, and so it's this kind of thing. But there's a number that you have that will support your lifestyle, that'll give you peace of mind, that allows you to do what you want to do when you want to do it, and it's kind of how we define financial independence. I said, what's that number? He says, no one's ever done that for me, and so I obviously seized the day, and we're getting together to talk about that, and so this is fun. It's fun helping people. It's fun talking about it. I love the fact that we can develop a number for people. I love the fact that we can tell them exactly what they need to do to get to that number. I love the fact that we have money managers and this and that and the other thing and insurance products to protect families and woo. Anyway, now you notice how I'm talking about it. I actually develop some energy. I reflect some conviction about the power of our work. The power of helping people, of seeing, right, that happen. And I love doing it. I've always loved doing it. It's one of the most energizing things for me in my business life. And I've felt that way about it now for almost 33 years. It'd be over 33, but I started it in July of 1980 and started falling in love with what we do to help people back then. We were with another family this last week, and the breadwinner had no coverage. His sweetheart did, and she helps in the business, but he's the one in real estate that generates the income. But an agent had come in, put some coverage on him, and somehow the paramed said he had to hide something or other, and it turned out he'd just eaten it, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor said that's a bunch of it, and he was in great health, but the guy never followed up. It was rated. He never took it anywhere else. But we're going to take care of that guy. We're now going to get the coverage on him. We're getting him saving money. We're getting him filling his Sapphire. We're investing that in great places. Very energizing thing. We are changing that family's financial destiny forever. We do it in just a few hours. I mean, this is so cool. How often do you talk about this? How often are you using examples like this? One of the reasons I still go in the field some, and I want you to think I'm a great agent. My son-in-law, Trevor, and I go to the field, and he's doing most of it. I just have a chance to chime in and share my passion some. And the reality is I go because I still love it. I still love watching people get excited. The spouse of this person, this friend, is real estate agent said, I said, how are you feeling about what we've covered here? She goes, I feel relief. I feel relief because we're finally we're getting the help that we need. We're going to be doing the right things. My husband is going to be protected. I love that. I hope you do too. But talk about it in your team. Never stop talking about it. Here's when you can stop talking about it. When you leave the business, when you retire. I guess if you quit, you can stop talking about it. If you're in the business, always talk about how much we help people. It's fun to hear, isn't it? Let's talk about the next language. The language of a better life. Everybody that filled out an AMA with a hope somewhere in their mind, in their hearts, that this was going to help them have a better life. I did, you did. Wild and crazy as that is. I said on, I think his previous webinar, the one before, we did an original prospect list. I have it right here. It's right to my right. Had 128 names on it. Cindy and I did it. And in and through that list, directly and indirectly, over now almost 33 years, we have seen over 1 million people be recruited to the business. That's crazy. And now it grows every day past 1 million. We're headed for the second one. And you know what? Every one of those people wanted a better life. Now, you've also heard me say, I think, some of you anyway, some of them held on to that thought for like an hour until they talked to their first person and blew themselves up. Or it lasted for 2 hours or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. But everybody who comes to the business wants to have a better life. Now, let's talk about that. One of the other parts of the homework assignment that I gave the people who came to the retreat, and I'm going to give that same thing, work assignment to you, is what? What are the ways that excite you about the type or kind or aspects of a better life that you hope to have because of your involvement here, because of the business you're getting the chance to build? You need to be in touch with those things. You need to be sharing those things with people. You need to be talking about this stuff all the time with your team. You get to quit at the same time you get to quit talking about helping people. This is what creates a hot environment. I want you to remember, if your environment is cold, the number one emotion that rules your business is fear. If you have a hot environment, the number one emotion people are feeling or attribute that they exemplify is courage. When you're hot that way, excited, feeling good, loving it, I love what we do for people. I'm excited about this better life I can have. I'm excited about a better life that you can have. I feel more, I can talk to people, that I can talk to people and have success. I'm not worried about a no anywhere near as much. I'm looking for the next yes because I believe in helping people. I believe in a better life for myself and my family. I believe in a better life for you. And so you need to be talking these two languages. Your business of words requires you to become fluent in the language of helping people, fluent in the language of a better life. You also got to get fluent in the third language, the language of building people, right? And so I want you to understand these three languages are a big daggone deal. Now let's talk about how you improve yourself this way, how you develop your expertise. First language. I want you to get clear on what your 5 favorite things are that we do to help people. Just like I'm talking about, or the homework assignment for that retreat. Maybe it's helping the little guy. Maybe it's helping families set goals and get on a plan like I talked about. Maybe there's this great product you represented to them and the features, like in the United States with the increasingly important tax advantages of a life insurance contract, the cash buildup in a life insurance contract. It could be the positive rates of return with lower risk. It can be all kinds of things, right, that we could get excited about what we do. Tax advantages, deferral, rates of professional management, rates of return, guarantees that back up certain products, all of this kind of stuff you can get energized about, just like you can get energized about the other things that way. What are your 5 favorite things? If you don't know them right off the top of your head, you are not fluent in a hot language called helping people. And you better get it. Now, you don't have to limit to 5 things. There might be 7, 8, 9 things you'd like to rattle off. You want to energize people? You're wondering why people don't get excited when you talk? I'm putting my finger on exactly what the problem is. This won't solve all your building problems like you kind of represent in the first title, but it'll make it a lot easier to build because you're creating a hot environment which assists the building culture. Next one, next part of your homework assignment is your 5 favorite things that lead to a better life. Maybe it's getting yourself and your family out of debt. Maybe it's saving some real money. Maybe it's getting better control of your time, your income, your life. Woo! This stuff almost makes me lightheaded. I get so excited about it. You guys, when I was starting this business, I hated the debt I was in. We didn't have much because back in my era, if you didn't make much money, the banks wouldn't give you credit cards. Now that's a very different reality today. I'm astounded at the debt or the credit that gets extended to people today, and how in debt they can become. And so for me, it was a very energizing thing that I was going to be making this extra money and I was going to get my credit cards paid off and end that era in my life forever. I was 28 and I was done. And when we got that one paid off, because that's all I had, that one paid off, we never had another credit card balance from now until today when I'm 60 years old, be 61 in July. And so that was a big deal, right? Anyway, there you go. Enough of that. Saving real money. You know, we had like $100, you know, and that's not a very deep well when it gets hot, you know, when there's an emergency. And boy, when I remember 8 months after we started part-time in this business, got a license, we had $30,000 in savings. It didn't sound like much, but it was twice my annual income at San Jose State at that point. It gives you an idea how little I was making. But the reality was having $30,000 in savings was thrilling, you know, and it was something that we wanted to have happen, you know, and it gave us peace of mind. And, you know, our rent was only $600 a month at that point. And, you know, and anyhow, it was a wonderful, and then we went on and saved more and saved more. You know, I can't tell you how much it means to us now to have control of our time, to be in the driver's seat in relation to our income for all this time. Anyway, it just feel like we have control of our lives. No one's breathing down our neck. I'm not getting employee reviews. You know, nobody tells me how long when I can take off. I want to take off or do something with my family. If I want to do something with my family, or when Cindy was pregnant with our children, go to the doctor's appointments. Nobody tell me I couldn't do that. Right. I love it, you know, and I want that for other people. What are your things? What are your favorite things? What turns you on about this better life that you want to build for yourself here? I want you to talk about this stuff all the time to your people. When you're prospecting, this is what I do. I talk about, when I'm talking to a guy, and they say, what is it you do? And I said, well, I'm with this company, you know, and then I talk about how I love it because of these things we do for people. And the chance it's giving me a chance to do these things. And by the time I'm done sharing that in a few minutes, people are pretty lit up. It heats them up. The ones that are going to show and have any aptitude for it, any inclination towards opportunity, are like, well, that sounds great, you know, and you end up in follow-up conversations with them. And so my hot language is also how I prospect. The next thing I want you to do for the language of building people is I want you to have 10 things clear in your mind I can say on a regular basis to build and uplift people. You might have 20, you might have 30 once you become real fluent with it. You might talk to them about how they're a good person, a hard worker, caring, capable, dependable, what a great attitude they have, how their intelligence is such an asset to them and an asset to the team, and how they have a wonderful sense of humor and a great family life, a great marriage, it seems like a great husband, father, wife, mother, these things, right? I mean, it's in other words, if you're going to deliver, encouraging, positive, recognizing words, we call it EPR. I'm calling it the language of building and uplifting people. you've got to want to speak this language, and you've got to speak it better than you do. Now, a few of you are good at it that are, listening to this right now, but most of us can get better. And we got to be vigilant every day that we just don't get a little bit down, a little bit distracted, so that we aren't speaking this language enough. These 3 languages, once you become fluent with them, will cause you to be an inspirational leader. It will change your life. It'll bless your family. It'll certainly bless your business. So I want you to become fluent about the favorite things you do to help, that we do to help people, your favorite things that lead to a better life through this business, through this opportunity, and at least 10 things you can be saying to people regularly to build and uplift them, to express appreciation. This creates a hot environment, and you need to raise the temperature of your environment. That will help you sell more. It will help you recruit more. It will help you build people better and faster. And last time I checked, that's what we want to do, right? Man, it'll help you license them. It'll help your quality of business. It helps everything. Courage is better than fear. All right. Let's talk about creating a price-paying environment. One of the things, I did a webinar, when was it? January, whatever it was, December, pansiitis anyway. I did it on pansiitis. It was addressing the fact that, some of us come into this and we're kind of lazy. Some of us come into it and we don't even think of it as lazy. We come into it with what I've called an employee mentality. And I referenced a few minutes ago, 9 to 5. Saturday, I remember when I was a California employee. We didn't work on Saturdays. They said, hey, we hold meetings on Saturday. Saturday? What would I be coming in on Saturday? They had to start helping me understand I had to pay a price to build a business of my own. I had to pay a price to get out of debt. I had to pay a price to save some real money. I had to pay a price to get control of my time and my life, right? And these kind of things. To be able to do great things, then wonderful things, to travel with a family, to get recognized in the company. Whatever it was I was desiring or hoping for, I was going to have to pay a price to get it. Anybody who doesn't teach this in your way are deceiving people. Now, you're not if they say, hey, I want to earn an extra $500 every 2 months. All right. You're probably not going to have to pay a bigger price, but you're still got to go get licensed. If you're in California like I am, you still got to do your pre-licensing hours before you can take your test. And and you're going to have to do some continuing ed, and you're going to have to pay your E&O. And I mean, there's stuff you got to do. There's some price you got to pay. And the bigger your dream, right, the bigger your price. This isn't a bad thing. It's an exciting thing. There are lots of places where you get to pay the price, and never win. Pay the price, never get control of your life. Pay the price, right? Never control your time. Always have a boss breathing down your neck. You're right. Always have to deal with politics. Man, that's the price I don't want to pay. I want to pay the price and win. That's what we have a chance to do here. And so, these things, but I just don't want you to look at what we're covering here as just applying to you, though I certainly want you to apply it to yourself. I want you to think about, what kind of job am I doing teaching this? What's my culture in the team in relation to price pay? Just like you did, I wanted you to analyze, what's my culture in creation of a hot environment? How hot is the environment in our organization, in our team? What is the price-paying environment you have? So let's look at it. Every real success story begins with hard work. Everyone. All right? You say, well, wait a minute. I read about a guy who won a lottery, right? He didn't work hard for that. All right. Be a dope. So go buy a lottery ticket. I've never bought one because I never wanted to aspire, right, to winning by luck. Right? I'm not looking to win by luck. I'm looking to make sure we win the lottery. We get to win the lottery every daggone month in this business. And so that's more fun. Also, this process of price training built our character, strengthened our family, strengthened me as an individual, gave me insights and understanding that I never would have had I not gotten in and paid that price. You really, I mean, if you're going to really get somewhere in the business, you've got to work hard enough that a lot of people think you're crazy. If the lazy people don't think you're crazy, you're not working hard enough, right? If the employee mentalities around you, in your family, on your friendships, don't look at you and say, man, that guy works weekends, he works at night, he's a maniac, right? He's crazy, right? Like I had people and friends telling me. But then we got to the promised land. We didn't look so crazy anymore. Then we had $1 million in savings. Nobody thought that was crazy. You know, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the webinars, because I entertain myself. I hope I'm not annoying you. But anyway, these kinds of things were a wonderful experience. It didn't mean, Cindy and I were laughing a couple of days ago about how we were looking at some pictures of us during the stretch, and man, do we look tired. You know, in fact, we noticed we didn't take a lot of pictures of each other during this time. Because, you know, you could see the lack of sleep in her face, you know, and all that stuff. But, wow, it was wonderful what happened for us. All right? And you're never going to catch me apologizing for what it takes, because I'm too excited about what can come from it, right? The better life, right? All the people that you can help, all the people that you build, including yourself. You got to work long enough to win. You can't just work for a couple of months, then coast, work for a couple of months, then coast, right? I've used the analogy of taking a plane up to 5,000 feet, turning off the engines, turn them on just before you crash, taking it back to 5,000 feet, turning them off again. Then they almost crash again. You start them up. You get, wow, that was close. You get back up to 5,000 feet. You turn them off again. All right, that's nuts. And too many people work their business that way. All right, you got to work long enough to win. Next, and while you pay the price, this is a practical suggestion. Simplify your life. Get a bunch of stuff out of it. I put away golf clubs. I put away the tennis rackets. Didn't mean I didn't work out in the morning, right? But I had to do it like in a half hour, concentrated, or get up a little earlier to put in an hour on an elliptical, a treadmill, or whatever it was. Lift some weights and work some cardio to keep it. But I couldn't take 4 hours to go play golf. You know, I couldn't wait. You know, anyway, I didn't have any hobbies. I got rid of the TV. You know, I took all that stuff. I simplified it. You know, you've heard me talk till you're probably ready to pass out if I was going to talk about, but faith, family, and business. And I kept it. I'm looking at the sign right now here in my office, right in front of my desk. I look up and there it is on the wall. Faith, family, and business. I simplified my life to those things. I even simplified my life within those things. My church leadership understood what we were doing in our business. So our callings were a little more straightforward and Sunday only. And our family understood, you know, as our children came of age, that they understood what was going on and why we were doing that. And, you know, and Cindy talked about this just last night to me, a suggestion she'd given a partner, you know, that if one of our children said, you know, I miss Daddy kind of, but if you talk to them today, they don't remember it. Cindy would jump in and say, well, let's make a sign that says, welcome home, Daddy, when he comes home tonight. You can stay up a little bit late so you can hold it up for him when he comes in. And that stuff just meant the world to us, to me. And it turned what could be turned into a negative into a positive. And the child and our children, our daughter, our son, we get absorbed in doing that or doing that together. And they were all excited to show it when I came home, you know, at 11 that night. And you know, the teamwork we had in the home was a huge deal in allowing us to simplify, right, while we paid this price. But I'm telling you, you got to pay it, right? And if you don't want to pay it, then you got to you got to create your dream to be smaller, right? You know, your earning goals are going to have to be smaller, and that'd be sad. What you need to do is build up endurance, just like a runner, just like an athlete. Build up some endurance in your capacity to pay the price, and then pay it over an extended period of time so you can end up on top of the world. Yeah. Okay. let's look at the Focus 4 environment. Here's the big four. It's going to be the first time you've heard this. 1, personal prospecting. 2, personal recruiting. 3, personal field training. Obsession. You've got to get obsessed with these things. Next one, number 4, frontline leadership development. Never lose your focus on the big four. And this isn't going to surprise you. We're going to take these one at a time. So let's talk about personal prospecting. Now, isn't that great? That's you prospecting right there. Now, of course, you're a woman. That's not going to do you much. You can be accepted as iconic. So here we go. All leaders must set a personal example. That's just the principle. You're going to notice it on each slide subsequently, right? You've got to set a personal example here. You've got to have prospecting stories. I can tell you about my last year, the one I was talking about with my landscaping guy. I want to talk about a guy I met here recently that ended up being a financial advisor for another company that I've talked to about the business and about our model. I met him in a furniture store. Furniture that's getting delivered today, as a matter of fact. And so I keep greeting people. During the retreat, people came up to me and said, hey, I met this person. They were prospecting, right? They want to map them from Canada to us here. And so these kinds of things are ongoing. And so let's kind of, just get some tips about this. I don't go places to prospect, so to speak. I prospect everywhere I go, whether it's the dry cleaners or Cindy and I have gone into Starbucks to get her a hot chocolate, and I end up talking to the person next to me in line, or someone else is waiting, for them to fix something, and people tend to come into those places around the same time. And so we try and go in around the same time so we can kind of bump into the same people again. Or you've gone to a restaurant. I always say, hey, is the owner here? Or is the manager here? And talk to those people. If I like the restaurant, I'm complimenting. Obviously, if I don't like it, I don't say anything. But anyway, but if I liked it, it's a chance for me to do a little bit of language of building people and talk and get a feel for it, and just to get to know more people. Everywhere we go, we just talk to people. Now, I don't naturally come by that, right? Because really what we're talking about is being friendly. I mean, just talk to people. By the way, if you say, well, I'm not very good at it, that's because you're not doing it, all right? I wasn't any good at it either. I am not naturally inclined by personality to talk to people. I'm a private guy, yada, yada. But the bottom line is not my thing. All right. I'm very comfortable nodding to somebody or like raising an eyebrow. But I found out that wasn't going to build me many friendships, and it certainly wasn't going to give me many contacts. I could ignore my landscaping guy. I could tell him I want these plants this much. We set the price and ignore him. All right? But that would be a shame, because there's all kinds of things we can do to help that family. So instead, I talk to him about how we help people. He goes, man, I could use some of that help. And then talk about why I love business, what it's done for us. His eyes light up thinking about that kind of opportunity. This is fun stuff. But I learned to be friendly. I learned to talk to people. I prospect everywhere I go. If they're not in the right market, I'm just friendly and let it go. Right? And not everyone I'm going to talk to do I end up having a business conversation with. But lots of people I do, right? And so that's cool. So a couple of points. Set a goal. Set a goal to meet 2, 3, 4 people a day. You might go out with a goal, as you're going out to a bunch of different places. I'm going to meet 10 people today. It would be the grocery store. It would be the dry cleaners. It would be the Starbucks. It would be, go ahead, in another store, the restaurant you went, on and on. You'd meet people. Or you might meet, my favorite, other customers. They tend to be better than the people that are working there for your business. But the furniture store, I ended up talking to the manager, was really sharp. He used to work for Pebble Beach Resorts, and we talked about that, and the Monterey Peninsula, and the golf course. But I got this impression, really sharp. Anyway, she moved to a new store, but I know which store it is. These are the kind of things you get a chance to do. But you just can't go, oh, I know I need to prospect. And then you just go months without really doing much. You got to have a plan, right? Part of that plan is the number you're going to talk to. Part of that plan is an affirmation you're going to be friendly and talk to people. You're going to learn to prospect. You're going to learn to get out of your circle. You're going to learn to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. By the way, you get out of your comfort zone, pretty soon the comfort zone comes back to you. You get comfortable being friendly. You get comfortable talking to people. You get comfortable because you did your homework, talking about the things you love about what we do for people, etc. You got to have a plan. Set aside time every day. Now, say you have a big organization, so set aside time every other day or every third day. You know, and you're building up names. Call these people now. Continue to develop the friendship, the interaction, the conversation. When my last big guy's out there, I'll go out in the backyard, talk to him a little more. The last time we said goodbye to each other, this is like the fourth time we talked, he hugged me. You know? It's because we've all of a sudden established a different kind of rapport than people generally do. I have that kind of respect for the guy who sold me the house that I was just talking about. We were helping his family. And we sat at that table. He says, Rich, basically I'm going to do whatever you tell me I need to do because I trust you. I mean, those are humbling things. And that's because we were friendly. We talked about things in our lives that mattered. We talked about children. We talked about character. We talked about marriage. Right? And so you end up having quality conversations with people. You know? And so I'm saying you got to have a plan. You got to have a goal for this. You got to set aside time every day. Prospecting doesn't happen by itself. Go to new places. If you just go to the same places, you know, you won't meet more people, and you want to expand it. Go to another Starbucks. Go to another dry cleaner. Right? Go to different restaurants and meet people. Right? But have your antenna up. Don't panic. You might talk to somebody, not get their name. They had to go. You go, wow, I wish I could have talked to that guy more, as sharp. It just doesn't always work out. Not everybody you talk to is going to join or buy or get anywhere in position. But as part of the prospecting mentality, the prospecting plan, having your time, getting out and circulating, you've got to plan this stuff. You're building a business. You're trying to get to a spot where you've paid off your debts and saved a bunch of money, maybe become millionaires. Did you think you didn't have to do something to make that happen? Don't be silly, right? And in this, share your passion for helping people. Now, there's one other thing I want to make a point about. Put it up there. Let's turn those into names. Too many times you meet somebody, fellowship them kind of thing, and get to a point where you can sit down and have a conversation with them. And it's not right for them. They choose not to do it. And then way too many times you don't get to that point even, but you get to that point and you let the no be the end. You know, a guy in this business is such an incredible friend of mine, Ed Milet. Here was a guy who's in our organization was a master of this, of turning no's into names. And what he would teach is that you have to be specific. You have to give somebody, if you ask somebody something very general, like, do you know somebody that might be interested in this? Yikes. That's like almost guaranteed to fail. The human brain does not access names from a general input. You know, it's just like in a search engine on the internet. You got to be specific. You can't just go, I want to know something. When you want to know something about your favorite sports team and a person on it and what their batting average is. You just can't go to the internet and go, baseball information. It's got to be specific for it to access it. Well, the human brain is very much that way. And so Ed would say, hey, I'm looking for a Latina businesswoman, sharp, confident, educated, you know, a little bit outgoing, right? And looks you in the eye, you know, and is ambitious, you know, but is good with people too, you know, has a good heart, good character. And the person go, oh, you know, I work with somebody, and it's specific like that. It could be something else. I'm looking somebody maybe has a military background, you know, is disciplined, and understands the principles of hard work and sacrifice, and is a character-based person, and people go, I work for somebody, I have a friend like that, I have a neighbor like that. You need to get in your mind 3, 4, 5, 6 descriptive things like that. Oop, here's more homework. That when you're prospecting and you're asking somebody about it, you can lay that on them. It turns no's into names, because we almost always make a positive impression, even on the people who decide not to do it. And they'd be glad to give you a name if you'd help them think of one. And so that's why you've got to be specific. Next thing, personal recruiting. Guess what the first one is? All leaders must set a personal example here. Man, if you just stand up in front of your team forever, tell them they need to prospect, but you don't, and you don't keep having stories. Tell them they got a personal recruit, but you don't, and you don't keep saying, hey, here's my new recruit. Hey, I had 2 to the meeting. I got 3 coming on Saturday. That kind of stuff, right? You're going to get hurt. Have a monthly goal and look for a range between 1 and 10,000, right? So 1 would be the minimum monthly goal. 10,000 is admittedly, an aggressive monthly recruiting goal. You would indeed need to get a lot of people to help you with that group. There'd be a lot of matchup appointments you'd have to set up, and it would be quite a busy phone habit that month. But that's a lot of presentations. Anyhow, all kidding aside, you got to have a monthly goal. How many recruits are you going to get every month this year? If you blow it a month, you got to double it up the next month. But if you didn't set a goal, you didn't know you blew it. All right, so that's critical. In recruiting, just like in prospecting, your enthusiasm and conviction is the key. You've got to show that conviction. That's why you've got to do that homework about the things that you feel strongly about in relation to helping people and in relation to a better life. You've got to know what you want to say. That's why I asked you to do this homework. If you're not clear on what you should say to somebody in a personal recruiting presentation, goodness gracious, get with a leader who does, and make sure you get it organized. You've got to have it organized. Have a brief, maybe 5 to 10 minute presentation that if you were meeting with somebody one-on-one, not an hour and a half, though there's a time you might do the BPM one-on-one, right, where you take an hour. Somebody would set up for that. But if you're getting together with somebody, right, and you want to get them down to the office, to the environment, to the people, to the hot environment that's down there, right, to the energy level, see the sharp people you're working with, see the operation, well, then you need a simple brief. You always need, what are the bullet points that you're going to emphasize about the company, about the opportunity, and about what we do for people that sets up people coming down to hear the story, all right, the bigger picture. One leads to the other. Know what you want to say. Show your enthusiasm and conviction. Have a monthly goal, right? These are the things you've got to do. And of course, I repeat it again, use the higher law languages of helping people and creating a better life. That will help you be a far better recruiter. Even become a great recruiter. Now, so we got personal prospecting, personal recruiting, number 3. By the way, you do this, we solve your building problems, Most of your building problems come to the fact you don't have enough to build. That's the number 1 building problem in the company. It always has been, and that'll always be the struggle. And we may not solve it for everybody, but you better figure out how to get this solved for yourself. All right? Guess what? In field training, ta-da! All leaders must set a personal example. Here's a good coaching tip. Never stop field training. Look, almost 33 years in the business. It's a wonderful situation. What this business pays me now. And so all this stuff is happening. Millions of dollars are coming in. Life is great. Still go out in the field. Right? Not because I use it to drive my income today, though that's certainly true. I was looking at the personal production numbers of the company just last night, looking at some people out there that had really start stepping it up again, and some of the, because I'd extended this challenge to get focused on these 4 things among some leaders that I'm working with, and I'm excited to watch some of the numbers. One of those is June De La Cruz. He had over 50,000 points. There were others on there that were just and there were a bunch of names above his, where people are out there just maniac field trainers. They're doing almost all of that is field training for these leaders. And they're master copies. And if you don't keep the master copy in the business, right, you're hurting yourself. That's actually the last point I want to make on this slide, right? So never stop field training. It maintains your enthusiasm and conviction, just like the two families, right, that we've helped most recently energized me. I mean, I just warmed my heart when they said, I trust you. When it warmed my heart when the wife said, I just feel relief now. Wow, that stuff thought about just, privately, it chokes me up a little bit. I love the fact that that happens, right? And so it maintains my enthusiasm and conviction about what we do. If I'm not doing that, like if I'm not occasionally recruiting a person and selling them on the company, I lose my zest, some of my zest for it. If I stop doing a little bit of field training or get out in the field on appointments, I lose some of my zest and feelings about, my passion for what we do for people. And so you can't afford to just sit in the office or process paperwork or, or somehow convince yourself that you don't need to keep doing this stuff. It's not a burden, it's a privilege, right? It's not it's exciting. And, in fact, talking to June just a couple of days ago, he said, Rich, I'm not just motivated. He says, I'm inspired. And you know why? He's talking to more people. Right? He has a bunch of personal recruits so far this year. And there are others that are that way. And names I'm not mentioning I'm having conversations with doing the same thing. Fires me up. 90+% of your time, the other thing it does early, I mentioned indirectly, the fact that I'm not doing it for that reason. Now, it keeps your income strong. But 90% of your time should be spent field training. You're field training when you're helping somebody make calls. You're field training them how to make calls. You're field training when you show them how to represent our products and sell them. Right? That's what you mostly think of as field training. That's mostly what I mean by field training. But also when I'm out with you, and you see me prospecting, right? That's field training you on how to prospect. If you're watching me talk to somebody and recruiting them in an interview, I'm field training you how to do an interview, field training on how to recruit folks. If you watch me in a BPM, you're watching me, I can field train you on how to give a recruiting presentation. 90+% of your time when you're a builder should be spent field training people in different aspects of our business. You show them, setting a leadership example and teaching them about leadership. That's field training them about leadership. Right? But you got to be in the field. You got to be representing our products and services. Right? You got to be changing lives out there. Right? And helping people. Keeps your income strong, keeps your enthusiasm up, right? And you're going to be training a bunch of people. Be a master copy. Isn't that cute? First time I saw the picture. I love making copies. All right, that's good. I heart making copies. Okay, so they're not all great pictures. But anyhow, here we are. And hey, if it makes you laugh, it can't be too bad. And so be a master copy. And you do need to love making copies in this business. Field train people 2, 3, 4 times. There's another copy. Do another one, do another one, do another one, do another one. And you got to be sharp yourself. But be a personal field training maniac. Just like I want you to be a personal recruiting maniac and a personal prospecting maniac. All right. And the last thing, number 4, frontline leadership development. Here's the deal. Guess what? All leaders must set a personal example here. This is the big 4. You can't not do that. You got to set an aggressive long-term width goal. Hey, if you talk to Eric Olin right now, you ask him, and this has been true for a while, how wide are you going to get? He says, I'm going to build 100 first-generation SMDs. All right? He is very clear on that. Now, you look on the Leaders Bulletin, and you see his name at the top of several categories, like super base production, like super base recruiting. You know why? Because he has set an aggressive, and he is acting on it, long-term width goal. It functions first in your base. Is personal prospecting, personal recruiting gives you base width. That will turn as you then what? Field train them and develop them into leaders into super base width, first generation SMDs. Nothing secret about this, but you've got to have aggressive long-term width goals. With it comes a commitment to do all 4 of these things. Then to set an example, never weary of leadership development. People don't grow as fast as you want, but neither do you. But you can't weary of it. Don't fatigue of it. If you take a nap, go work out, all right? Take a day off if you have to, because you've got to keep patience with people. By the way, the people who weary of leadership development are the people who just get a little group, don't add any more to it, all right, and sit around and wish they would all get bigger. All right, those are the people who get tired of leadership development. That's because you're setting a stinking example. You're waiting, they're waiting, nobody's moving, nobody's really excited. You aren't personally prospecting much or at all. You aren't personally recruiting much or at all. You aren't personally field training much or at all. And you've got a handful of people, and you're all get bigger. Wow. It's like a farmer with 4 trees in an orchard, wanting to have 40 acres worth of produce, and he's only getting what gets from 4 trees. You got to plant more trees. If you want more milk, you need more cows. And other such analogies. All right. Let's talk about the formula for changing a person's identity. And, when it comes to leadership development. The number one thing you've got to do, and let me show you the whole formula all at once here. Put it up. It starts with a personal relationship. Right? You've got to have that relationship. You've got to start building a quality trust relationship. I am not, again, by nature, someone who opens up. This is what I feel. I mean, it's just not. But I have to learn to do that. Here's where I come from. Here are my values. Here's why I'm, the decisions I do, why I stand for the things I do. And I open up. I get them to open up to me. We build a friendship. We get to know each other. It's the foundation of changing a person's identity. It's the foundation of leadership development. I can't do anything of what I want to do without a sincere personal relationship with a person. Mutual respect, holding each other in high regard, and again, trust. Then it comes, I got to identify what are their strengths, what are their gifts. And the reason I do that is because I got to talk about them all the time to them. People are hyper aware of their flaws, hyper aware of their weaknesses. It's my task as a leader to develop them, and in that process, I got to identify who they are, and all these good things about them. Their character, their honesty, their integrity, their friendliness, their intelligence, their kindness, their work ethic, their discipline. I identify these things, and I talk about it to them. I praise them for them. I don't go through all 20 things that might be their strengths or gifts every given moment, but 2 here and 2 more there and 2 more there. I'm constantly praising them around their strengths, their gifts, enhancing them, right? Because that's what we're going to build them with. Their strengths, their gifts. I'm not going to build them with their weaknesses, so I can't be pointing that out. If they have some major thing, like they beat people with a stick during the presentation, well, we got to coach them on how that's probably not a good idea, and here's why. And people deserve to be treated better than that, and all that kind of stuff. It's also, leadership development is a great deal of instruction. This is where now, in a lot of the lower level stuff, here's how you do a presentation. Here's how you do a follow-up interview. Here's how you do a BPM. And here's how you do it, all right, to close, get referrals. That type of instruction is part of leadership development. I'm also going to instruct you on what are the higher law languages. How do you create a hot environment? That's instruction. It's instruction in the higher law, right? With this, as I have a relationship, we're building on their strengths. They're learning more and more, and they're getting better and better. I've got to challenge them. They've only had 1 person recruit so far this year. Well, that's unacceptable for what I know their goals are. And I got to get with you, and I got to challenge you. You got to go get 5. What do you got to do? How much more prospecting? You need to be a little bit more organized in that. Devote it a little more time. It's critical. My coaching, right, becomes critical, right, as will yours. And there are regular challenges. I've extended a bunch of challenges to you on this webinar. Learn these languages. Do this homework, right? Become fluent with this. Use it more often. Create a hotter environment. All right. Teach more about work ethic. Set an example of work ethic. That's a challenge. Work harder. Work until people think you're crazy. As all of this occurs, your relationship, identifying these things and building on them, the instruction, the challenges, you end up with a person that plays at a different level. And as they play at a different level, they go, well, I guess I'm good enough to do this. And then it gets better, and you keep doing it, you keep doing it. They go, oh, I'm good enough to be an SMD. I'm good enough to be an EMD. I'm good enough to be a CEO. I'm good enough to build a team of 500 licensed people. That changed identity. That wasn't what they came into walked through the door of the BPM with. And anyway, our task is to raise their belief and confidence in themselves. That's what is a changed identity. All right. I hope this is of some use to you. And I've had fun covering it. Our time here is up. Next webinar is May 8th, and it's going to be, wow, that's a strategically placed trap right there. I hope that guy doesn't sit down. That's a good one. That kind of makes up for the I heart copies. That's a good one. I'm going to talk to you about what are the killer leadership mistakes. Because you know what? You've all done some of them. And some of you aren't sure what they are, right? And it's important that you know where the mines are in the minefield. You know where the traps are, so you can avoid them. Like this little doughboy guy here is avoiding that trap, right? And so we're going to talk about killer leadership mistakes. What are the things that blow up relationships? What are the things that keep you from building relationships? What are the things that blow up your business, right? So I think it's probably pretty important to know that stuff. So I'm going to have fun doing it to you in a month or so. Well, there's a lot of time left in April. It's time to do more personal prospecting, personal recruiting, personal field training, and more frontline leadership development. Go to work and build a hot environment in your team. Master those languages, all right? These are skills and focuses that will change your life and allow you to build an awesome business. They sure have blessed our lives. And that's why we were excited to show them to you and talk about them with you. All right, everybody, I appreciate you. Thanks for being in business with us. Let's get her done. Bye-bye.